haven't seen you since last year.
I'ma fucking rip your face off, bitch.
Hi, Happy New Year. It's been a wee while. I've been enjoying the festive period, alright, huh? So today let's ease ourselves into 2024 with a little bit of Mithras, baby. The topic of Mithras and Mithraism is an incredibly big topic to get into. I know, right? Trust me, I'm planning a big video all about Mithras. But not today. Today I only really want to look at one very specific carving of Mithras, which I do really enjoy. I enjoy this carving a lot, actually. It's one of my favourites. Today we're revisiting the Mithras Egg carving from Housesteads. I don't really know what else to call it. I don't think it's got like a proper name. I just call it the Mithras Egg. And this video is probably going to be titled The Mithras Egg. I must say I've talked about this before. I've mentioned it in a very, very old video. The Religion Along Hadrian's Wall, which I did as a uni presentation back in the day when this channel first started. I think it's the first proper historical video on the channel. So deep, overwhelming, to my core cringe. You can go watch it if you want, but there's no need to. But it is still there. It's not good. And Housesteads is the Roman fort which I mentioned in my Eagle Bearer's Guide to Housesteads, if you would like to go and watch that. That's much more recent and I don't cringe at that one nearly as hard. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comments if they're nice. And I'll leave the reading and sources and all that in the bibliography linked below, as I always do, in the description box. Now let's hop on a train to Newcastle, because that's where the carving is. It's in Newcastle. Everyone's favourite. We love Newcastle. I am going to very briefly explain who the hell Mithras is. And I'll go over the basics of Mithraism, the religion, just so you don't think that I'm absolutely off my rocker mad. As I said, there's bloody so much to talk about. We'll be here for hours and I'm not prepared to do that today as the first video back in the new year of 2024. Mithras is a god. There you go. Mithras is supposedly a god of Persian origin who was brought into the Roman religious marketplace through the Roman army, who were stationed in the east and who were out in the east doing army things. Although when we take a look at this in the deeper mysteria in another video, absolutely not today because I'll start crying, maybe he wasn't. His following was mostly made up of soldiers and like high-ranking officers in the army. We have no obvious evidence to us that there's any females in the cult whatsoever.
No, dude, that's about to piss me off!
By his following was mainly made up of men, usually connecting to the army or even like other travelling parties such as like soldiers, possibly some sailors, traders, merchants, people who were on the move around the empire. That's how he spread as well, most likely. But we don't know very much about Mithraism as a whole because it was a mystery cult. Oh, I love talking about mysteria. Which means that the rites and the lore of the cult was all shut off behind an initiation wall. And you had to be initiated to gain access to the information. And we are not initiated, or well, I am, because I went to the London Mithraeum and I felt like I got initiated on that day and nearly started crying. If you want to go watch that video. So most of what we know about Mithraism and Mithras in general is reconstructed from the archaeological remains found across the Roman Empire, mostly being through Mithraeums, the temples in which people used to worship Mithras. See the London video, because I'll be repeating myself and I can't remember what I said in that video for the life of me. But go and watch that for information on the actual makeup of a Mithraeum. Mithras, to his followers, was seen as a saviour, the slayer of the bull of primordial darkness, from the corpse of which sprang all life, baby. Hence the Tauroctony image, which is found in every Mithraeum. That's how we know that a Mithraeum's a Mithraeum, because it has this Tauroctony image in it. But I'll be talking about that a little bit later. From what we can tell as well, he has some sort of connection to the cosmos and the zodiac. There's lots of suns, moons, truths. Think you're getting away from the Teen Wolf jokes? Never. That was incredibly brief. So sorry. But that's the basics that you need to know about Mithras before I start talking about this mysterious egg. But now that I've covered the basics, let's actually look at that carving, please, that the video is supposed to be about. The Roman fort at Housesteads was excavated in 1822. If you would like to see specifics about the fort, please see my Eagle Bearer's Guide, because again, don't want to be repeating myself. During these excavations, they also found the Mithraeum, obviously, outside of the fort walls, I believe it was. Mithraea are usually underground sort of dwellings, temples, supposedly to symbolise the cave in which Mithras killed the big bad bull. And in the House des Mithraeum, they found a carving of Mithras being born from an egg. You can see his bottom half is still in the egg, and his head's got the wee shell on like he's some sort of Tom and Jerry cartoon. He's got his sword in one hand and a torch in the other, and he's surrounded by a big wheel of the zodiac signs. He's actually, like, as he's being birthed, holding up the cosmos in his hands. It's an incredibly unique image as well, and I love it. Bits have been reconstructed, of course, because it was broken. But around him you can make out the 12 zodiac signs. Just for those who aren't familiar with their zodiacs, with their signs. They are actually in order as well, which is quite nice. I didn't realise that at first. I was like, huh? What's that one meant to be? They are in the correct order. I'll take these from the bottom left round to the bottom right. We've got Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. Tag yourselves, besties! I'm the Pisces. This image, so far, has not been found in any other Mithraeum across the Roman Empire that we have currently found as of recording. It's covering marsh there. You never know with archaeology. Somebody could find one tomorrow. From the evidence within the Mithraeum as well, it's obvious that Mithras wasn't the only god worshipped in this space for whatever reason. It wasn't just exclusively for Mithras. There's little altars and inscriptions left to Sol, the sun god, and also other local little deities. But this image itself, the actual carving of Mithras, also kind of harkens to other gods as well. It combines his usual imagery with the imagery of other gods. But I'm going to get into that in just a little second. Slow down, please. We don't know exactly who dedicated it and why. There's no actual text on the carving itself that tells us this thing, where sometimes Romans love to put their name on stuff like that. But surprisingly not this one. But from its fine context, there is a few clues as to who might have dedicated it and why. It was possibly dedicated by a man called Litorius Pacatianus. Good name. And we assume that he dedicated this one because he dedicated a bunch of other stones also within the Mithraeum, and analysis shows that it's like the same type of sandstone as the other ones, so they were maybe all made at the same sort of time. Maybe. Litorius Pacatianus, say that 10 times fast, Jesus Christ, was a high-ranking officer working under the provincial governor. Wow, very high up. And he was based at Housesteads in around the 3rd century AD. CE. It's also possible that in his lifetime he either maybe served in the East, or maybe he was of Eastern origin himself, so that's where he discovered Mithras and then brought him back over here with him. As previously mentioned, there was an altar to Sol left in the Mithraeum, which was actually dedicated by a slave of Litorius Pacatianus, who was of Eastern origin, so there's definitely some connection there. We know for a fact that at some point Litorius Pacatianus was in the eastern parts of the Roman Empire. Whether he lived there, whether he was born there, whether he was stationed there, we don't know. Whether it was his slave that was from there that he, I don't want to say owned, even though that is the right word to use, but you know what I mean. Maybe his slave introduced him to Mithras. I don't know. I'm uninitiated, alright, and it makes me really angry. But enough about them. Let's dive into the symbolism of the egg. Because this is where your brains are really going to start rotting. In this particular instance of the egg, remember that Kyrgyzstan video that was like, the cosmic egg? That's how this feels to me. Mithras has been combined with aspects from multiple other gods to create this image. Who knows why? The altars within this Mithraeum are specifically dedicated to Mithras Secularis, which translates to Mithras, Lord of this age. So this combination clearly has some sort of significance to this specific aspect of Mithras as Lord of this age. Usually, in images such as this, and in the sort of foundation myth of the Mithraic cult, Mithras is born from the rocks of the ground into darkness. He emerges from the rocks and he's holding his torch to banish the darkness, and then he goes to find the bull and kill it, right? But here he's cracking out of an egg, which differs from that myth entirely. In a creation myth that we know of, with a god being hatched out of an egg, it's got to be Phanes from Orphism. What do you know about Orphism, huh? Orphism is another amazing Mysteria cult for another day, because Mysteria cults are so good because you can just get absolutely lost in meanings of things that might be completely meaningless. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, but very similar ideas from Phanes and Mithras of this sort of creation myth and their birth, their hatching, whatever, being the beginning of light and life amongst the chaos and the darkness. I've been playing Hades a lot, so if I'm using B-roll that's Hades characters, sorry. What are you going to do about it? So we've got a connection to Orphism. Love that. Love that for us. The next aspect I want to discuss and tackle is the big zodiac around him, right? Mithras is connected to the cosmos in some way, we do know that. Yes, this wheel of the zodiac around Mithras in this specific image echoes that of Eon, the god of cyclical time. Eon's connected to many different Mysteria cults and afterlives. Afterlife being one of the main sort of things of Mysteria cults, making sure you get to the right afterlife and all that, which of course tying into cyclical time, life and death cycles, very big character, right? Not only connected to Mithras in this instance, but also having connections with like Orphism, and I'm gonna need to do 10,000 videos just to explain this one. I can feel it coming on. For this next little portion, I would like to take our egg, our very peculiar, unique, we love her, slay, egg, and compare it to the Tauroctony image, which is the iconic image of Mithras and Mithraism. As briefly mentioned earlier, it's found in every single Mithraeum, and it's one of the main things for us to be like, oh, this must be a Mithraeum, because look, there's a Tauroctony here. There's a Tauroctony here. Therefore Mithras is here. God bless. The image of the Tauroctony is Mithras slaying the primordial bull of darkness to release life from its body, from its corpse, from its blood, from its tail, from its arse. Life springs. Mithras himself is wearing Phrygian dress, especially the cap, which is like iconographically dress of a non-Roman person, usually of Eastern Persian descent. In these Tauroctonies as well, he usually has a big flowing cape out behind him. And in certain instances where it's like a carving and it's being painted, his cape is usually painted dark with stars on it. So another link to the cosmos there, his cape is made out of the stars. How cute! Quite often there's like dogs, snakes, other little creatures feeding from the stab wound that Mithras has done on the bull to further symbolise life springing from its death. And also to add insult to injury, there's a little scorpion nipping its nuts. Pretty much all the time that scorpion's there, just again as well to symbolise life. The tail of the bull is usually replaced by an ear of corn to show that, hey, all life is sustained by this bull, guys. By the way, this bull is life. This bull is us. We're living it. We are it. Whoa. Most interestingly, to me at least, almost always, Mithras is either looking straight ahead in the Tauroctony or he's looking back behind him over his shoulder. He is never looking at the bull as he slays it. Except for that one time where those guys reconstructed a statue wrong and made the head look down. But that was bad of them. That was wrong. They shouldn't have done that. We don't know why that's the case. Was there some sort of reason why he couldn't look at the bull? Was it just an artistic decision to make him look out at the audience rather than look down at this bull? Is there some part of the story that we just don't know because that part's not been written? And maybe the initiated, who know the full story and the full rights of the cult and whatever, maybe they would understand that means always looking up at that thing, or at that person, or at that other god or whatever. Maybe there's something there that we're just missing because we don't know that. That's the beauty of it. We could think that's highly significant, or maybe it means nothing. I'm going to leave that with you there. I'm not explaining that any further. Sometimes in these Tauroctonies he's surrounded by the zodiac, sometimes he's not, sometimes there's the sun and the moon there as well, sometimes not. Because the Tauroctony can differ. Sometimes it's a painting or a flat wall, sometimes it's a full statue, sometimes it's a carved block, sometimes it's a revolving door. But no matter the form, the Tauroctony, like Mithras actually stabbing the bull and the wee creatures around it, that is 99% of the time spot on, nearly all the time. So where does our egg fit into it though? What's the significance of that? Why have they changed it up here? There was also a Tauroctony image in the Housesteads Mithraeum, actually, I should say that, which is also in the same museum where the egg now is, I believe. I've got photos of it, which is a good example of a Tauroctony that was like up on the wall. What made this person choose this deeper symbolism with the egg and merge it with these particular gods? We have zilch. No clue, no idea. I think about this carved of Mithras all the time. I have done since, that must have been second, third year of uni when I did that first presentation on it. And it's also the background of my computer screens, believe it or not. I love it. I love it. When I went to Newcastle for the first time, I went in the museum and turned around and saw it there because I forgot that it was actually in that museum. Started crying. The mind truly It boggles. We can assume that whoever commissioned it, whether it was Litorius Pacatianus or not, they were a very spiritually and religiously clued in person, you know, their chakras were aligned, they had their crystals, they were there. The vibes were up, you know. Andrew Parkin of the Great North Museum, where the egg now is, by the way, he suggested in a video, which I will link below, that the Romans were getting a bit bored of their traditional pantheon. Hence why, at one point, the Roman religious marketplace, which is, again, a whole other topic for another time, but the Roman religious marketplace got huge. It was so broad. You had the original gods, like your Jupiters and your Neptunes and your Minervas. I struggle because I know the Greek names for them. I don't pay attention to the Roman names. You had your local deities, which were accepted into certain parts of the empire and sometimes amalgamated with the OG gods. But then you also had your Mysteria cults, so you had your Mithras and you had your Orphism and you had your Cybele and your Attis and your Samothrace, whatever the hell's going on there. And of course Jesus, kicking about, eventually. Jesus was technically a Mysteria cult. You literally, at one point, at the sort of peak of the Roman religious marketplace, any issue you had in your life, you had an issue about afterlife, you go and see so-and-so, your health, giving birth, your love life, there was gods for everything, until eventually that all changed. But again, not for today. I'm nattering on, sorry. The Housesteads Mithraeum is unfortunately no more. Housesteads, the fort, is still there, but the actual Mithraeum, I believe, has been covered over. But the finds from it are now on display in the Great North Museum in Newcastle. If you fancy going to see them for yourself, I highly recommend it. Loads of cool stuff in it, not just the Mithras and the Hadrian's Wall stuff. And I'm not sponsored in any way. I'm a big fan. I'm a really, really big fan. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year, happy 2024. Sorry if that was a bit all over the place. This is the first video I am recording in weeks. First video I'm recording in 2024. Energy is not even high, it's just all over the place. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked it, and if you didn't like it, I don't care. Hit that subscribe button, please. Thank you again for over 1,000 subscribers. Oh my god, feeling famous. I'm joking. And leave a wee comment below what you think of Mithras, what you maybe think the symbolism of this egg is, and let me know as well if there's any points that I've talked about, like I want to hear more about Housesteads, I want to hear more about Orphism, I want to hear more about this. Just let me know in the comments. I do have a list of videos to get through, but I can bump things up if you really want to see it. Lovely to see you, lovely to have you all back. This will be us back in the flow of things. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know. Check in next week to find out. Anyway, tatty bye, and see you all next Tuesday. Bye bye.